Welcome back to the Deck Forge, where I craft commander decks and lean far too hard into the villain role when given any excuse. And today's excuse is a good one, because we're looking at the big bad of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Fire Lord Azula. Azula is a 4/4 for 4 mana in Grixis, already one of my favourite colour combinations, and she comes with Firebending 2 and a very abusable ability. Whenever you cast a spell during combat, you copy it. This turns combat into your personal storm step and opens up extremely explosive lines. And yes, before you ask, you don't need to load the deck with every flash enabler under the sun. It's very tempting to imagine all of the ridiculous sorceries you could copy mid-combat, but honestly, most of the best things you can do with Azula are already instant speed. She's at her strongest when she's chaining efficient, flexible spells that naturally fit the timing she wants. Some of the strongest cards in this deck are the simple loot and value spells that become absurd once you're doubling them. For example, Thrill of Possibility and Laughing Mad. Normally those ask you to discard a card as part of the cost in exchange for drawing 2 cards, which is fine, but with Azula that becomes discard 1, draw 4, which is an unbelievable rate for setting up your hand and digging for your combo pieces. You get the same sort of glow up on cards like Flick a Coin. 1 cast usually deals 1 damage, makes a treasure, and draws you a card. A nice little package, but cast it during combat with Azula out, and now you're dealing 2 damage, making 2 treasures, and drawing 2 cards. Fist of Flame becomes another standout. Instead of a single draw and a temporary power boost, you now draw 2 cards, and Azula jumps up by 5 power with Trample, turning her into a real threat. Other cards, like Sudden Breakthrough, get similarly out of hand. Instead of +2 power first strike and a treasure, you're now giving +4 first strike and 2 treasures. And Haste Magic becomes a surprisingly strong enabler as well, giving Azula +6/+2 haste and impulse drawing 2 cards to keep your chain going. These small, efficient spells start stacking up very quickly once every single one gets doubled. Once you've churned through your deck and lined up your pieces, the rituals become the real fuel of the deck. Dark Ritual turning into 6 black mana is already good, but Desperate Ritual doing the same for red gives you even more flexibility. Seething Song becomes a 10 mana powerhouse, and Battle Hymn can produce a truly stupid amount of mana depending on how many creatures you have lying around from your Magecraft engines. Even the so-called free spells like Snap and Frantic Search effectively become ritual engines here. When they untap your lands twice, they end up producing mana instead of costing it, which is exactly what you want during a storm turn. Then you've got cards like Unexpected Windfall and Big Score, which usually trade a discard for 2 treasures and 2 cards, but with Azula you get 4 treasures and 4 cards. They actually pay you back what you spent to cast them, and they keep your storm count climbing the whole time. Once you've built up a massive pile of mana, you can comfortably fire off a big Comet storm and wipe the whole table using the multi-kicker. Electrodominance works too, though with the downside of only hitting 1 target, so unless you found a way to copy it, it won't finish everyone at once. To make everything even more explosive, we've got a few tools that let us copy our already copied spells. The biggest offender here is Twinning Staff. Whenever you copy a spell, Twinning Staff says you can copy it again. So a simple ritual that used to make 3 mana now makes 9, a draw spell that used to draw 2 now draws 6, and pretty much everything you cast during combat catapults into ridiculous territory. I've also added Reverberate, which does the usual job of copying any spell you need it to, but because of the way Azula works, it can also form infinite loops for Magecraft triggers if you need to close the game through value instead of combat. Speaking of Magecraft, these creatures are absolutely critical. Storm-Kiln Artist pumps out treasures for every spell you cast and every spell you copy, which turns into a pile very quickly. Archmage Emeritus draws you a card for every spell or copy, effectively making your hand bottomless during your storm turn. Sedgemoor Witch gives you an army of pests, which can very easily get out of hand and allows for some backup combat wins. And of course, Professor Onyx gives you that Magecraft drain trigger that can empty life totals extremely quickly with infinite loops. We've got a couple of clean infinite lines here. By combining Dualcaster Mage with a spell like Snap, you can make a loop where Dualcaster Mage copies the Snap. The Snaps bounce Dualcaster Mage and another permanent. And because Snap untaps lands, you net 1 mana each time. The end result is infinite mana, infinite Dualcaster tokens, and the ability to bounce every opposing non-land permanent, which usually ends the game on the spot. The second infinite line revolves around Narset's Reversal, with Twinning Staff on the battlefield and Azula copying it. You create 3 total copies of Reversal. One of them can target the original Reversal, returning it to your hand, and the remaining copies keep cloning the spell. This gives you infinite Magecraft triggers. There are definitely more convoluted lines hidden in this deck. Storm decks always have weird, tangled interactions, but I'll leave those for you to discover as you play. Even though the deck is mostly spell-based, some creatures are essential support pieces. Kess, Distant Mage, lets you cast a spell from your graveyard each of your turns, which is an incredible way to keep your storm chain going. Bria, Riptide Rogue, gives all creatures prowess and can make sure key blockers can't interfere with your combat step, which matters a lot once you start accidentally creating armies of tokens. Veyran acts as another Twinning Staff for triggered abilities, doubling your Magecraft triggers and growing into a real threat on her own. VV Orniter adds both scaling power, pings, and mana generation, making him a 1-card engine. Ashling Flame Dancer is another piece that helps bank red mana across phases, which is useful because firebending mana normally empties at the end of combat. A great one from the Spider-Man set, Electro Assaulting Battery, refunds you a red mana every time you cast an instant or sorcery, which adds up surprisingly fast. It also stops any floating mana leaving your pool if you don't have what it takes to go off there and then. And Crackling Spellslinger is one of the most explosive creatures in the deck. Because she has flash, you can drop her in combat, and she gives your next spell Storm. But when Azula copies her and that spell, you essentially end up with Storm twice, as the first spell gets the double Storm and the copy copies it. Even a simple lightning bolt becomes a lethal chain. Atali Primal Storm is another fun one. He ignores timing restrictions entirely. Anything you exile with him can be cast immediately, and Azula will copy all of them, turning Atali's attack trigger into pure chaos. Finally, to keep things thematic, we're running the strongest Firebenders. Firebending Student scales the mana it produces with prowess. Zuko, Firebending Master, builds experience counters to store bigger and bigger firebending turns. Ozai, Phoenix King, is a massive firebender with Firebending 4 Haste, a way to store your floating mana and become flying and indestructible if you have enough mana in your pool. And Avatar Roku gives you 6 red mana every time any player attacks, which can generate a staggering amount of mana across an entire turn cycle. He also has an outlet for his mana if you don't have a way to store it. You can pay 3 red mana to give a creature +3 power until the end of turn, a great instant speed trick to mess with your opponents. For recursion, we're running Invoke Calamity, which lets you cast up to 2 spells with mana value 6 or less for free, and Azula copies the Invoke and each spell you cast with it. Mizzix's Mastery can overload to cast everything in your graveyard, which often wins outright, and Past in Flames gives all of your spells flashback, letting you rebuild a storm turn from nothing. Unfortunately, both Mizzix's Mastery and Past in Flames are both sorceries, so we have a couple of ways to make all of your spells have flash for the turn. The only flash enablers we run are Born Upon a Wind, which also draws 2 cards with Azula and is well worth the slot, and Emergent Zone, which gives you a one-shot way to cast your sorceries in combat if you absolutely need to. Jeska's Will remains one of the most explosive cards in the format and is great here, even outside of combat. Mystical Teachings gives you an instant speed tutor to hand, which is better in this deck than the usual top deck tutors or sorcery speed ones because anything you actually cast during combat gets doubled. And that's my take on Fire Lord Azula, a commander who will instantly make you the villain of any pod in the most satisfying way possible. This deck is fast, tricky, explosive, and rewards clever sequencing just as much as it rewards letting the chaos take the wheel. If you want to see the full list, it's linked below. If you enjoyed this brew, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments which Avatar commander you want me to throw into the Forge next. I've got my eye on a few already, and as always, happy crafting.